Hey guys, it's been a while, but I finally found the time to come back to you guys so that we can have a discussion today. It's about a month, actually, a month from today, I'll be hosting my very first live and in person seminar, Speak to My Heart, at Coppin State University in the Health and Human Services Building in room 102. The name of the conference again is Speak to My Heart. We're going to speak to the broken places of our hearts, have a heart to heart conversation, and we're going to develop some tools to heal. Like our trusty soccer ball, it has questions, it'll have more, and it'll be a challenge for us to answer some real questions that we may not answer at other times. But today, our conversation is about fear of our worth. Why are we so afraid, one, to know our worth, and two, to let people know our worth? What is the definition of worth, though? What does it mean to know your worth? Not if you're worthy, but your worth. To know your worth, you know your value. But value is a perceptive thing. People see value differently. A person that has never had any food to eat, a person that has never had an opportunity to bathe, a person that has never had any of their own, they may see a meal more valuable than another person would see $100 bill. But what is it about our worth? What is it that we don't see in our worth? I came across a quote lately because I wanted to know what a weed was. The weeds that are outside in the ground and, that kind of interrupt the gardening and people want to pluck the weed out. And I was like, what is a weed? What is the worth of a weed? And when I found that a weed is a plant not valued where it is growing and is usually a vigorous growth. So a weed is a plant that is not valued where it is growing. Do any of you guys feel like weeds right now at your job? Like, do any of us feel like we are a weed at our job? We're at our jobs, we're growing at our job, but we're not valued there. We know our worth. We know what our perceived worth is. We have degrees, we have educations, we have experience, we have knowledge. We have the tools and the skills to do our jobs, but we're not valued in our place of employment. So we are a weed in our place of employment. But just because you're not valued where you're growing, it doesn't make you not a plant. It just makes you another name or give you another name, or it names you as a different type of plant. It doesn't say that you're not growing. It doesn't say that you're not in the family of plants, things that grow, things that have seed to produce something. It's just saying that you are perceived as a weed because your value is not noticed where you are. How many people feel that today at their job, in their households, within their families, in relationships? We feel like weeds. We have allowed what other people perceive of us to change our identity. Like, think about that. We have allowed what people say about us, what people speak about us, what people think about us, what people feel about us, change what we know about our worth. We have allowed people to change our identity from a plant that is filled with growth and prosperity to become a weed, something that is irritating, something that is uprooting other things, and that's not what we are. We are still plants. We're still growing. We still have worth. We still have worth. But we have allowed other people's perception to change our identity and who we are. Somebody might find their goals at a standstill right now. You find your goals at a standstill, you kind of feel like you had it all figured out January the 1st, and now here we are in October, and you really have not seen the fruition of what your goals were. So again, you convince yourself that my goals must not be important anymore. You find yourself at a standstill of your goals. You find yourself feeling like maybe your goals were too great. Maybe what you set out to do was too great. Do you find yourself there? Do you find yourself at work you're sitting down and you have a plan and you are, I guess what we would call getting unraveled, and then 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, you're sitting there and you're thinking, what am I doing? What am I supposed to be doing? I don't know, but what I'm doing right now, I don't want to do anymore. You find your goals at a standstill. You see yourself trying to define what your purpose is. You're waiting for change to happen. You're waiting for that call for that job. You're waiting for that email, for that promotion. You're waiting for that breakthrough. But for some reason, you're not getting it. So you begin to tell yourself that this is it. This is all that I'm worth. Tell yourself, this is all that I am. This is all that I've become. You lose sight of the plan that God has for your life because you've allowed someone else to change your perception of what He has purposed you to be. Because you've allowed someone to speak into your existence and change your identity. You feel overwhelmed, pressured. That's me right now at work as well. I'm all over the place. I know what I want to do. I know where I want to be. I know that I love what I'm doing, but I know that there's a change that has to happen. And you want to make the right choice. You want to ensure that you're not acting irrationally, that you're not acting out of instant gratification. You want to make sure that the decision that you make right now is the right choice. But you think about your past. You think about how in the past you made decisions. You think about the hurt that you felt in the past. You think about the disappointments you had in the past. And those things stump you. You think about all the times, opportunities arose and you were passed by. People didn't appreciate your value. People didn't appreciate your worth. So you start to second guessing yourself and again. You find yourself at a place again where you're like, oh, maybe that's not for me. Remember, your past was your passage. It's not your path. Your past was a passage for you. It is not your path. It is not where you should rest. It should not be the trajectory of your direction. It should not be the influence of your consistency to reach your goals. It is a lesson. It is an experience. And it should be just that. And your purpose does not change because you're not valued in the place you're growing. Remember this. Even the tallest tree in the forest that no one sees growing is still the tallest tree in the forest. So if you're going to allow people to call you a weed, then you'll be a weed. But if you will not allow people to change your identity as a plant that will grow, then don't. And continue to be that plant that grows. Set up a standard at your job. Set up a standard. Even when things are happening that are unethical, things are happening that are not right, set up a standard. Don't ever change who you are. I had a worker who I started to see display a certain behavior. And a few times it happened, and I was like, oh, don't like it. But the last time I said, hey, listen, don't do that. Don't be complacent in what you see. I know that what you see is something that has been normalized and it seems like it's appropriate, but it's not. Be professional at all times and don't let negative behavior and unethical behavior change what you're doing. Don't. Be confident. Be honest about your strengths and your weaknesses. Plan for your future. Don't ever be complacent in a position. You have to continue growth. If you don't continue growth, you will become a weed. But you have to grow. You have to seek growth opportunities. You have to seek training. You have to seek a mentor. You have to seek opportunities to continue professional growth. You have to water your goals. And you have to plant appropriate seeds in right places. You can't plant seeds in concrete. I mean, you can, but it will take a longer time for you to see the fruition of that seed. Don't be afraid of what you're worth. Know your worth. Be humble, but tell other people who you are. Right now, we are in the fall season. We're in a time where nature begins to fall apart. You know, it's really going to sleep to prepare for an opportunity for spring because everything happens in a time. But right now in your fall season, plan. Plan. I was in training the other day and we were talking about the 80-20 rule, and they said if you took 20% of your time to plan, you have already done 80% of the work. So let's take 20% of our time to do 80% of the work. Remember, a weed is only a plant that is not valued where it is growing. That's all a weed is. Doesn't mean it's not a plant, and it doesn't mean it isn't growing. It means that it's not valued where it's growing. So if you're feeling like a weed at work, you're not a weed. You're growing, and you're growing vigorously, but they don't see the value in you. So that means it's time to make a change. I hope that this was like, oh, he's back. We're ready to see what he's doing. And November the 17th, please go to eventbrite.com, search and speak to my heart, and purchase a ticket. Tickets are $30, but they come with all activities, all supplies, and it is catered by Wacky Waffles, which is a great catering company in Baltimore City, Maryland, and the food is amazing. I do not hire or book anyone else. So please, 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 if you can, purchase a ticket, because this is a conversation that you definitely want to be a part of. You want to be a part of this conversation. Speak to my heart. November 17th, Coppin State University in the Health and Human Services Building, room 102. Talk to you guys later.